utapata wito nakwambia leo Aki 9 months hujaenda out, usiende out, alafu unabugia mvinyo. If alcohol is in the milk, mtu huyu anaweza
So what you are doing is anyway, so when you pumping and dumping, it is advocated when you're breastfeeding your baby, as much as possible, avoid drinking alcohol, smoking, if that is your thing, amongst any other substance abuse behaviors. Well, because, and this I can believe is a very difficult habit for a mom who is maybe a drug abuser, and you use cocaine, heroin, and then you got pregnant. So from the whole pregnancy part to post-pregnancy to breastfeeding, that must be a very difficult journey because your baby actually gets everything that you're putting into the system. Most medications and alcohol and smoking passes through into breast milk. So the pumping and dumping, if you go out and you know you have drank your heavenly soul out, yes, you cannot go back and breastfeed your baby. We usually give a time frame, the alcohol to come out of your system. Hanyi kuishe alcohol ikutoke, uache kusikia a certain way. So what you said, if you can be able to avoid alcohol for the amount of time that you're actually breastfeeding, from 0 to 1 year to even up to 2 years, if your child is going to breastfeed for that long, please do. If you decide you want to go and have a drink in small quantities, a glass of wine, then take about 2 to 4 hours. So you drank your glass of wine at 10. 2 to 4 hours later, as in, give yourself that time before you breastfeed baby. So we say uta breastfeed mtoto maybe uko saa 8 ya usiku after you've gone back home. So you've let the alcohol come out of your system. But umeenda, you've taken a crate and you go back home, you cannot breastfeed your child. You have to let that alcohol out of your system completely. So what do you do instead? Because I understand you're a mom, you've not been out, you're frustrated, you're seeing forward, you just need a socialization. Pump, this is why I recommend pump as much milk as you can for your baby prior to going out. So umekuwa ukijua Saturday you're going out with the girls. During that week, during the 2 weeks, during that month, be pumping and storing, pumping and storing, pumping and storing in your freezer. So that time when the milk, the alcohol is getting out of your system, baby has something to be taking, because that time you'll be pumping and dumping. Now ukinusa hiyo maziwa, you notice it, the smell has changed. And also, if you taste it, you'll notice also there's a bit of change from what you're used to. So what does baby do? When you put baby on your breast, even then you might notice they're like, eh? Because even with some foods, if you're not used to eating things that have high flavors or are very smelly, so maybe you decide today you're eating something like omena, or you're eating salmon, and it's very highly flavored. And into breast milk, sometimes you notice you're putting your baby on the breast, and they are, it's like they don't want. They're like, what is this? It feels new because also it has tastes and flavors. Yes. Number 2, there are certain instances where you actually need to be in consultation with your healthcare provider. So, for example, when you were pregnant, you had conditions. You were diabetic, you're hypertensive, you're hypothyroid, you had HIV status was positive. I always advocate, please be in contact with your healthcare worker as much as possible, because you are on medication, remember? So, and medication translates into breast milk. So you need to be very careful how you're going about that. Will the dose be adjusted? Are you okay? etc. But either way, breast milk is best. 0 to 6 months. Your baby will feed off of what you're eating. We advocate, you have to ensure that you're drinking water. And water is not what you're used to. At least normally you take about 2 liters of water every single day. So when you're breastfeeding, you move even up to 3 to 4 liters of water every single day, because, and not just water, you're hydrating. So there's water, there's things like bone broth. Bone broth is just bone soup. There is porridge. you're drinking things like maybe you're having a cup of tea or milk. That's why you see you're told to have a lot of chocolate, hot chocolate, things like that. So all those are different types of fluids. But in terms of water, you push as much as 3 to 4 liters, because you find the other fluids you're taking, for example, bone soup is nutritious, but you might find having a cup of tea is dehydrating because of the caffeine inside the tea bags. Milk might make you susu a lot, so it might also dehydrate you despite the fact that it's giving you nutrients. So the 4 liters goes to, think of it this way, you keep on breastfeeding someone, or rather, it's like a tap being opened every 2 hours. That tap is being opened, and assume you have a tank of water. Every time it's being opened, and it has to fill up for about, we recommend about 20 minutes every single time you're breastfeeding from one side. So you can imagine you're always opening that tap for 20 minutes every 2 hours. How many mLs or liters do you end up removing from that tank? That's why you need to ensure that you're feeding well and refilling your body. The good thing is, when breastfeeding, every single time you breastfeed, you stimulate production of more milk. So the longer you have waiting period, so if you wait, for example, 6 to 8 hours to 10, the longer you stay without breastfeeding or just releasing the milk from the breast, the longer it also takes to reproduce the milk.